Nikola Tesla lived a long life with a lot of ups and downs. This is the story of how this man, working from the ground up by using his talents, was able to become a millionaire at 33 years old. It's the story of how a penniless immigrant, after being betrayed by Edison and left to dig ditches for $2 a day, pulled off a breakthrough accomplishment. It's a story of how the world in the 1880s desperately needed a new breakthrough technology to be able to scale up the adoption of electricity for industrial and domestic use. It's the story that leads to that final $1 million handshake that made it possible. Section 1T, The American Nightmare, The Difficult Start. In his youth, Tesla worked a few jobs in Europe, far from being rich at the time. For instance, he recounts of Paris. For several days after my arrival I roamed through the streets in utter bewilderment of the new spectacle. The attractions were many and irresistible, but, alas, the income was spent as soon as received. When Mr. Puskas asked me how I was getting along in the new sphere, I described the situation accurately in the statement that the last 29 days of the month are the toughest. Finally, in 1884, a 28-year-old Nikola Tesla arrived in New York City, 5 years before Charles Steinmetz did. Stay tuned until the end to learn why we are introducing Steinmetz into our discussion. Tesla had with him just 4 cents in his pocket, a book of poetry, some notes of course on engineering and maths, and a letter of introduction to the most famous inventor in the world, Thomas Edison. Let's skip that ugly story that happened next, how Edison mocked him, even though the blow was delivered through one of his managers, not by Edison personally. What followed was a brief dark period for Tesla. After a failed attempt to start his own company, Tesla was left with nothing. The man whose mind would make blueprints for a wireless future was forced into manual labor to survive. Through the winter of 1886, Nikola Tesla was digging ditches in New York for $2 a day. He was homeless, his dreams seemingly buried, but inside his mind a revolution was brewing. Section 2. The spark of genius. The idea that would launch Tesla from poverty wasn't born in a ditch. It came to him years earlier in 1882, during a walk in a Budapest park. While reciting his favorite poetry, Tesla had a sudden, vivid vision. He saw it at once, a motor that ran on a new kind of power. Not direct current, but something far more elegant, 2 or more circuits of alternating current, or AC, that were out of step with each other. To understand why the world needed a breakthrough in the late 1880s, let's consider the level of technology back then. AC motors. They simply didn't exist. They were considered impossible. Nobody could solve the riddle of deriving net motion from a constantly alternating magnetic field. Tesla's own professor told him that it was impossible. Now, we must remark that an Italian academician, Ferraris, had the idea of a 2-phase toy motor and the rotating magnetic field. A few years after Tesla, in fact, and there seems to be a misconception that Galileo's idea has the same merit as Tesla's and that he should be considered an independent inventor of the 2-phase motor. But in fact, he didn't see the potential of that idea and considered it only a lab toy. He didn't believe it could be scaled to power. So Tesla was the only one who had all the pieces of the puzzle and knew exactly what the whole picture looked like. DC motors and generators had issues, sparking commutators and brushes. They simply didn't cut it. For large-scale industrial application, it was not yet clear whether electricity should be generated on site or transmitted over long distances. In any case, long-distance transmission didn't exist because DC generators couldn't create voltages high enough for that. Transformers, they were invented before Tesla. People like Lucien Garland had created single-phase power transformers that could handle kilowatts. But 3-phase AC generators and 3-phase transformers were unequivocally the invention of Nikola Tesla. Let's listen to the words from one of his later articles. Here are excerpts from his 1919 autobiography that make it clear, from the horse's mouth, so to speak. He says, "My alternating system of power transmission came at a psychological moment, as a long-sought answer to pressing industrial questions, and although considerable resistance had to be overcome. The commercial introduction could not be long delayed," he explained. The prospective effect of the rotating field was not to render worthless existing machinery. On the contrary, it was to give it additional value. The system lent itself to new enterprise as well as to improvement of the old. He contrasted this with his later turbine invention, writing, "My turbine is an advance of a character entirely different. It is a radical departure in the sense that its success would mean the abandonment of the antiquated types of prime movers on which billions of dollars have been spent. Perhaps the greatest impediment is encountered in the prejudicial opinions created in the minds of experts by organized opposition." He then tells a story. "Only the other day I had a disheartening experience when I met my friend and former assistant, Charles F. Scott." "Scott," I exclaimed, carried away by the vision of a glorious future, My turbine will scrap all the heat engines in the world. Scott stroked his chin and looked away thoughtfully. That will make quite a pile of scrap, he said, and left without another word. In 1888, a solution was really needed, and the world didn't have engines or transformers to scrap. It's kind of like where we are heading today when our data centers, EV charging, and crypto mining use huge amounts of electric power and will hit a limit unless new means for power generation are adopted. Present-day technologies simply won't be able to supply enough electricity to power the booming AI workloads. Back then, Tesla's vision solved the immediate challenges. Not the energy crisis, but deriving net motion from alternating magnetic fields and electrifying the whole world efficiently. The genius of Tesla's AC motor lay in its polyphase system, which created a dynamically rotating magnetic field. This was achieved by carefully timing and superimposing several alternating currents, effectively conjuring a swirling magnetic vortex. Within this invisible grip, an armature was continuously pulled around its axle. No brushes, no sparks, less maintenance. Even better, three-phase AC could be economically stepped up to a high voltage to travel hundreds of miles with little power loss, then stepped down to safer levels for homes. It was the key to electrifying the world. While the idea of using single-phase AC this way may have been considered, it hadn't been popularized because the AC motor was missing and Edison was so aggressively pushing for DC. It was Tesla who made the crucial breakthrough of introducing three-phase generation, transformation, transmission, and distribution, an efficient and balanced system still used today. While digging ditches, this vision was his lifeline. The story goes that he would talk incessantly to anyone that would listen about his new system that promised to solve the world's problems. He finally caught a break when a foreman saw his potential and introduced him to Alfred S. Brown of Western Union. Intrigued, Brown and his partner, Charles Peck, agreed to back the inventor. In April 1887, they took Tesla out of the ditch to form the Tesla Electric Company, setting up a lab just blocks from Edison's headquarters. Finally free and funded, Tesla unleashed a storm of innovation. He built the motors he dreamed of, along with generators and transformers, a complete AC system. Between 1887 and 1888, he was granted over 30 patents. In May 1888, Tesla delivered a lecture before the American Institute of Electrical Engineers titled A New System of Alternate Current Motors and Transformers that became a sensation. It caught the eye of the one man in America with the vision and resources to challenge Edison, George Westinghouse.
And now the next part will be that actual $1 million handshake that made Tesla fabulously wealthy at the age of 33. And trust me, you wouldn't want to miss where the brilliant Charles Steinmetz comes in as well. But before we get to that, let's talk about your own potential as a creator. Inspired by successful YouTubers making fortunes from their channels, then I've got a resource you need to see. It's a program called Tube Mastery and Monetization by Matt Barr. It can save you months of trial and error and show you exactly how to turn your curiosity into a channel that pays. In his Facebook community, he answers every single question himself. He offers a ton of value to the world, and it could be the key you need to get to the next level in your life as a content creator. I've left a link for it in the description below. Feel free to check it out. I also have this free video popping up for you dedicated to solutions for boosting your financial strength and online security as well as creativity. Thanks, and with that out of the way, let's get back to the show.
Section 3. The $1 Million Handshake. George Westinghouse was a brilliant inventor and industrialist who had already made his fortune with the railroad air brake. He was a systems thinker, just like Tesla, and had been investing in AC technology for years. But he was missing the most important piece, a practical AC motor. Westinghouse's engineers saw Tesla's 1888, a new system of alternate current motors and transformers, lecture and raced back to their boss. This Serbian inventor had the missing link. Westinghouse wasted no time. He visited Tesla's lab and was blown away by the simple, powerful AC induction motor. The two men were a perfect match. Tesla, the pure visionary, found in Westinghouse a practical industrialist who got the world-changing potential of his technology. Westinghouse, the entrepreneur, found in Tesla the genius who could help him defeat his rival, Edison. They quickly negotiated a deal that would change history. In July 1888, Westinghouse made Tesla an offer that erased any past sting of broken promises. The terms were incredible for the era. Westinghouse paid Tesla $60,000 in cash and stock for his patents, worth over $1.7 million today. But that was just the start. Westinghouse also hired Tesla as a consultant for a massive fee of $2,000 per month for 1 year. Then came the master stroke, the part of the deal that, on paper, would make Tesla fabulously wealthy. Westinghouse agreed to a royalty. For every single horsepower of AC electricity sold, Nikola Tesla would receive 2.50. It was an extraordinary deal. With the stroke of a pen, Nikola Tesla, who just 2 years earlier was digging ditches, now held a contract that made him a paper millionaire. The combination of the upfront payment and his huge salary made him a wealthy man, but the real prize was the royalty, which promised a nearly unlimited stream of income as AC power took over the world. By the way, Tesla didn't particularly enjoy working for Westinghouse in Pittsburgh. The practical details of making his system ready for widespread application, along with the necessary teamwork, held little appeal for the visionary inventor. His mind was already leaping ahead, captivated by the potential of high-frequency AC currents. This is where another electricity hero, Charles Steinmetz, comes in. While Tesla ventured into new theoretical realms, it was left to Steinmetz to tackle the complex, down-to-earth challenges of practical AC adoption. His incredible mathematical prowess and meticulous work were crucial in refining and stabilizing the system, making it truly robust and scalable for the burgeoning electrical grid. He left behind a few brilliant books on the subject that make you wonder how just a human mind, without AI assistance, could accomplish so much. He also contributed a lot to education of engineers. Bonus section: what came later? The golden age of invention. The Westinghouse deal didn't just offer Tesla the promise of wealth, it gave him freedom. For the first time, he had financial independence and a powerful ally. A noble-minded European gentleman, he started living like a prince. He moved into upscale hotels, dined at the finest restaurants like Delmonico's, and became a celebrity in New York high society, known for his style and wit. But the real prize for Tesla was the work. With his newfound resources, he established a magnificent new laboratory to chase his biggest dreams. Freed from the need to make immediately profitable gadgets, he entered the most spectacular period of his career. This was when he began to explore the very edges of electrical science. He first went on to explore high-frequency AC. He fashioned rotating machines that produced alternations in the tens of kilohertz or kilocycles per second range. These machines would later be used in the opening years of the 20th century for early radio transmission, ironically, when Tesla had already abandoned them and moved far ahead into even more bizarre avenues of research. He allegedly experimented with pulsed power DC capacitor discharges, with conversion of ordinary electricity into a whole new form, safer, more energetic, and more spectacular. He invented the high-voltage, high-frequency transformer that would bear his name, the Tesla coil. With it, he created artificial lightning in his lab and pioneered wireless lighting, holding up glass tubes that lit up in his hands without any wires, a feat that seemed like pure magic. He was a showman, dazzling audiences with impossible feats of electrical wizardry, all while dressed in a formal white tie and tails. Patenting the results of his later Colorado Springs experiments, he claimed to be able to magnify the electrical movement, hence the name of his invention, magnifying transmitter. He obtained discharges of millions of horsepower. This period also saw the ultimate triumph of his low-frequency AC technology, the 1893 Chicago World's Fair. The contract to illuminate the fair was the biggest prize in the War of the Currents, Edison's General Electric bid to light it with DC. But George Westinghouse, using Tesla's far more efficient AC system, dramatically undercut the price and won the contract. On opening night, President Grover Cleveland pushed a button and 100,000 incandescent lamps bathed the White City in a brilliant, unprecedented glow. The 27 million people who attended saw firsthand the power and safety of alternating current. In the Great Hall of Electricity, Tesla himself was the star, proudly displaying his AC system. The World's Fair was the decisive moment. From that point on, over 80% of all new electrical devices ordered in the US were for alternating current. Tesla enabled Westinghouse and Steinmetz to win the battle of currents. But unfortunately his latter inventions didn't achieve such spectacular reception in their day. We hinted it earlier in his autobiographical quote from his 1919 My Inventions article. which was about the resentment with his turbine. But that's another story. Conclusion: at just 33 years old, at the age of Christ, Nikola Tesla had gone from a penniless immigrant to a celebrated inventor with a deal that made him fabulously rich. The partnership with George Westinghouse was the validation of his genius. It gave him the wealth and freedom to enter his most spectacular period of invention, solidifying his name in the history of science. While the later chapters of his life are a different story, one of grand, unfinished projects and fading fortunes, that narrative should never overshadow the incredible triumph of his youth. The story of Tesla's $1 million deal isn't just about the assets he once had. It's a story about how it's possible to go from rags to riches at a young age in a harsh environment, and about the resilience of a singular genius who was ultimately more interested in lighting up the world than in owning it.
And now we've reached the moment that always comes sooner or later at the end of the show. If you want more content like this, there is a playlist that should be popping up right now. Stay tuned for more. I've also made a free video for you with solutions for creativity, financial strength, and online security. I want to give special thanks to Matt Parr and other product makers for helping out the world so much. And I want to thank you for watching. Either way, your interest is the current that powers this channel. My name is Konstantin, reminding you that fulfillment comes from staying true to your calling, just as Nikola Tesla did.